Hello, beautiful people on the internet. It's me, Gratified Waters, and I'm here to tell you what if Deku had Luke Cage's powers, part 9. Before I jump into the video, please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please comment down below any what if ideas that you have for me. So anyway, now that I've gotten that checklist out of the way, let's jump straight into the video. Last time I left off, Todoroki, Ida, and Bakugo instead of Izuku Midoriya, since he's trained with Fat Gum, it defeated the hero killer Stain. Bakugo nearly got captured by Nomu. Stain saved him and then gave out the speech, which did go viral. So Toga, Dabi, Twice, Moonfish, all them goodies, well, not goodies actually, baddies, came in and then joined the League of Villains because of Stain. And now we cut back to Izuku and see what he did with his internship. When he first got to Fat Gum's agency, well, the first thing that he saw was that he was seeing that man eat a buttload of food. And then, well, he started to sweat drop, saying, is this seriously the guy I'm going to be learning from for an entire week? And also, there's a reason why I chose this picture of Luke Cage. So, just got to get that out of the way. So, Fat Gum just like to say, you're the hero from UA, right? And then Izuku says, yes, sir. I'm here to intern because I believe that you might have something that might help me handle my abilities. And then Fat Gum is like, most people call it quirks, but okay. And then, well, he starts to get up and then take them to their training facility where Fat Gum trains his powers. And then he says, well, hit me with everything that you got. And then Izuku's like, are you sure, sir? And then Fat Gum is like, don't worry about it, kid. And then he does hit him. But he notices something. And because he didn't want to injure him, he thought that he should hold back. And when he did, his hand sinked into Fat Gum's fat. And he was like, now my turn, kid. And then as he gets ready, his hand begins to glow a bit. And then he punches Izuku. And then he goes flying. And he says, what was that? And he said, my quirk allows me to turn my fat into energy. I assume that's why All Might brought you here, because your quirk also works the same way. And then he said, well, kinda, I'm basically invulnerable, but that was a shock to my system. And then he begins to remember the sports festival, kind of like Bakugo's Howitzer Smash. And he's like, oh, so your invulnerability allows you to convert into energy? And then Izuku just says, no, I'm just basically invulnerable. He's like, oh, so let's do it this way. I'll start training you on some of the ways that you fight, and we'll patrol around the area together, and you could learn some things while I have some of my sidekicks hit you with some support gear. And he's like, oh, cool. And so as they do train and learn the ways around the city, their support gear comes in. Now, as you can see, Luke Cage has this cool shirt with those glowing gauntlets. And this is going to be added into Izuku's hero costume. And, well, he still keeps the glasses from the previous Luke Cage that I showed earlier when they were doing the Heroes vs. Villains test. Except, unlike this shirt, Luke Cage's Izuku's own is a long sleeve, which goes straight into the gauntlets. And then Fat Gum begins to explain that since that you can't absorb energy on your own, this should help you with the attacks. Since that you said it's yourself, you're basically invulnerable, we decided to build this shirt that you're wearing to absorb as many hits as possible. I made it out of very, very hard fabric. It's a little bit heavy, but since that you did say that you have super strength, it shouldn't be any problem, right? And then Izuku just responds with, yeah, but what does it do? And then he begins to explain that it absorbs kinetic energy. It absorbs the energy from the blows that you take, and then it powers up your gauntlets. And it allows you to to dish out even more harder punches or just concussive air blasts or forces or blasts if you want. And then he says like, cool. So then he begins to explain that this is how it works. When it's not glowing at all, that means it's not charged. When it starts to glow a dim little, that's when you have enough for at least a few concussive blasts. When it begins to glow brightly, you have enough to do many concussive blasts and powerful punches, but only 5 punches. And then if it begins to go blue, that means it will begin to overload, and well, you have to dish out some of the energy quick, otherwise it will begin to overheat and then it will eventually destroy the gauntlets. Do you understand? And then Izuku just says, yes sir. And then he says, good. And then as they begin to train, Izuku begins to say, thank you, Falcon, for everything that you did for me. And then he says, no problem, kid. I just thought that, well, you needed the help. I mean, after all, that's why you entered under me, isn't it? And then Izuku says, yeah. And then we cut back to the present day. And then after Izuku had saw the news on Falcon's TV while they were training, he was really scared for Bakugo and Ida and Todoroki. And he said, oh god, what happened there? And then, well, nothing much. Hero Killer came in and saved all of us. And well, that was a lot for Todoroki to swallow up. And then Bakugo just said, it was nothing. And then, well, he's a little bit weirded out by this, but he just said, alright. And well, they do get called up by All Might, and then, well, they are still taken into, what is it called again? I keep on forgetting. That test that All Might has set up for them to do the race. That race thing, yes. Zero, Ida, Izuku, and Mina, well, they still go there. And the thing about the suit as well is that Izuku could at least power some of it up with his own kinetic energy by pounding his fists together. Well, not like in a palm, but both of his fists. He forms a fist and then he pounds them together. Not with a palm. Just how to say it. It won't be enough, but it won't be enough for it to go fully bright like in the picture, but it should be enough to at least glow dimly for at least a few concussive blasts. At least 5. So yeah. They start to explain that Izuku might have a little chance, but they start to notice some of the gear on his hero costume. And then he's like, wonder what that's all about. Yeah. And then they begin to see Izuku leap up. And then they were like, man, we forgot about that, didn't we? And then they start to say, yeah, it's good, but if he misses, then he will have to jump again. And plus, he will have to regulate about where he's going. And then they see that Izuku did manage to find All Might on top of that water tower. I think it was a water tower. And then, well, as he's beginning to fall, he's about to miss until he puts his arms on the left side and then launches a concussive blast, which flips him to the water tower, allowing him to win. And everyone is they just dropped their jaw. I was like, huh? Since when? And then they notice his gauntlets. Holy shit. Is that what he picked up from his internship? And then Bakugo is all like, hold up a second. That's similar to my explosions. And he was like, yeah, you're right. This is like, that damn bastard. He copied me. I can't believe this. I thought we were more than that. And then Bakugo just goes off to wander. And then, well, Ida does come up to him and then asks him something. And then Todoroki does the same as well. And then he says, what do you two want? He wants to just say that thanks for helping me. And Todoroki just says, well, I also need to ask a personal question. That orange lightning, as he remembers from the Hero Killer, since, well, Bakugo did use one for all during that time. What was that? And then, well, Bakugo just begins to laugh it off, but in his mind he was like, crap, I might even have to show them later on about what's going on with 1-4. And then he just says, well, you don't know everything about me. I mean, after all, I do have to keep my secrets. I did let it loose during the sports festival though. And then they begin to think back about when Bakugo hideously broke his arm. And he was like, oh yeah, that's true. So you had a second quirk all this time? And he was like, well, yeah. I just decided not to show it because, as you can see, it broke my arm. But thanks to my internship, I was able to fix that problem. So now I'm twice as dangerous. And then he begins to walk off. And then, as Izuku Midoriya won, we go into Bakugo zone. And then Bakugo just says that I could easily do this with my explosions, but I just have to set it up so that they won't start asking me questions about it later. And then, well, instead of using the explosions, he does his 1-4 full counting. Full cowling. God, I can't believe I said full counter. Sorry about that. And, well, he does manage to win because unlike Izuku, he still has his explosions for maneuverability if he needs it, and he doesn't, well, mess up his footing. And he was like, holy shit, what the fuck was that? And then Izuku in his mind was like, hold up, I cut these things so that I could keep up with your speed. And now you're telling me that you're faster than before? The fuck? And then All Might is also surprised by this because he's seeing that this guy has finally, well, is mastering 1-4. And then, well, he does manage to win, but barely. And then he tells Bakugo to meet him in the conference room after school with Izuku. And then, well, he starts to comply. And, well, that's how it is for the rest of the day. People still ask him questions, but then he gives out the half-hour explanation, and then Todoroki and Ida backs him up because he told those two. And, well, as they were heading into All Might's office that day, Izuku was like, you damn bastard. I purposely got these gauntlets. Fat Gum got me these gauntlets so that I could finally keep up with your speed. And now you're telling me that you're faster than before? The fuck? And then Bakugo is all like, well, better get used to it because I'm just going to keep on getting better and better. Because what you saw right there was just 20% of 1-4. And he was like, no way. And he was like, uh-huh. And then as they meet All Might in the conference room, they begin to sit down. And then All Might begins to explain things to Bakugo and Izuku. First, he tells Bakugo if he got cut. And then Bakugo's like, yeah, I got cut. And then his eyes begin to widen. And Izuku is like, what? Like, oh no. 1-4. And he's like, huh? And then All Might is like, yes, that's why I called you. And I wanted to tell you that, don't worry, it can't be forced on. It only has to be given willingly. And then Bakugo is like, oh, thank God. I just started to learn how to use this power. It would be funny if I just lost it like that. That would be so dumb. And then, well, All Might is like, don't worry about it. That's why I came to tell you. And something else. And then Izuku is like, I'm a little bit confused, but okay, what is it? I wanted to tell you the origins of 1-4. And then he begins to explain about the first generation and when quirks started to appear and how people wanted to abandon them and also kill them, eliminate them and all that. Then he begins to talk about All For One and his uncanny abilities to steal quirks. And this, well, surprises Bakugo. And Izuku is a little bit scared. Like, really, really scared. And then he starts to tell them about how 1-4 All was created by All For One. And then he begins to tell him about, well, these crazy things that All For One did and how his younger brother wanted to stop him, and then how All For One forced a quirk onto him, and then, well, how he became one of his greatest comeuppance. And then begins to tell him about how All For One could still be alive, and Izuku is sweating. And then he begins to say about the next generation, and then Izuku is like, so you're telling me that the person that kept me in that hellhole and experimented on me like a lab rat 2 years ago was. And then Oma is like, yes, All For One. I'm sure that I was able to take him down, but sadly it seems I'm mistaken, as that Nomu that had appeared during the USJ. And then he tells young Bakugo, now you know the reason why One For All was created. It was for the specific purpose to defeat All For One. And then Izuku is like, no. And then All Might looks at him and is like, what? No. Listen, Bakugo. I don't care if you're All Might's successor, the greatest hero in the world. I now don't care if you become the number one hero now. I make this loud and clear. The person that will take down All For One is me. Got that? I have to make that bastard pay for what he did to me. And then Bakugo is like, yo, chill, man. And then Izuku's like, don't tell me to chill. That is all I ask. You understand? I don't care if you're some kind of chosen one. I don't care about any of that. What I want is to put that bastard 6 feet under. And then Izuku begins to walk off. And then Bakugo is trying to catch up to him, but then All Might was like, stop. He needs to cool down a bit. And then he begins to tell Bakugo that you need to watch over him. What we saw in that place when we rescued him 2 years ago was, as he described it, a hellhole. He was just the lucky one. And then Bakugo does start to feel a little bit guilty about, well, what happened to Izuku. And then Izuku still gets home, and then as he went home, he locked himself in the spare room, which has been his room for the past 2 years. And then Izuku is just angry, and he begins to break down. It's like, God, that man, I can never get that face out of my head. And then, well, Bakugo makes it home 2 hours later, and then Mitsuki is like, do you know what happened with Izuku? And then he's like, a bit. And then he begins to head into Izuku's room, and then starts knocking on the door. And he says, Izuku, are you there? Izuku. And then Izuku doesn't answer at all. Instead, he's writing in notebooks on different ways on how to handle All For One. All the kinds of quirks that he may have had for all those years, and eventually a way to kill him. And as I said that, we move on to the next day, and Izuku doesn't even start out with the nasty comments that they do every morning, and instead just ate and then walked out and then headed to school. And then, well, Isawa begins to tell them about the final exams, and then tells them about the force camp training. And then Izuku is just looking and paying attention. Bakugo is just looking at him a little bit worried. Ida and Ochako asks if something is wrong, and he's like, nah, don't worry about it. And, well, Eraserhead just tells them that they should get prepared, because next week will be the written exam, and after that it'll be the practical exam. So you all better get ready. and then he leaves. And this is where I'm going to leave it off, guys. I hope that you enjoyed today's part. I really liked the idea of giving Izuku those gauntlets. Like when I was picking out the pictures for him, I just saw this and my mind just clicked, since that he needed the speed advantage. And I thought that, well, since Bakugo has crazy gauntlets, I thought that, hey, let me give Izuku some crazy gauntlets. I hope that you liked what I did with them, and if you didn't, please tell me how I could improve on the idea, because I like it and I personally want to keep it. So yeah, this is where I'm going to leave it off, guys. And next and tomorrow, well, that's going to be the entrance. I said entrance, the final exams. And I'll see you all next time.